Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and welcome to Patron Hangout number 214. And I'm glad to be back. I was away for an entire week on vacation with my son. Most of you know him as Cinnamon. If you're new to the channel, his name is really David. But for some reason, when I put in, I said, who are Pat Brown's children? Grok said, Jennifer, Jeremy, and Cinnamon. So all of you have been calling him Cinnamon ever since. So Cinnamon and I had a lovely trip. We went leaf peeping, although the leaves were like hiding. Oh, hello, cat. Speaking of Mac the cat, he just went, hello, Mac. Are you going to say hello to me? No, of course not. Mac is here eating his food. I left a big, huge bowl of dry food out for him and a big bowl of water and fed him for the week. And when I returned, in case you also new to the channel, Mac is a feral cat I've been feeding for a year and a half in my house, and he will come into my bedroom. He will lick food off my hand. He will stand on my lap and eat, but he will not let me touch him. And after he spends about 20 minutes with me, he gives me the stink eye, and he just walks out. So he's a really expensive and useless pet cat. Anyway, he's here eating. So he did fine while we were gone, but the leaves were not very good this year. They really weren't. And I don't have my pictures yet because they're on my big, good camera, and I'm going to download them. I'll show them next week. I do have some beautiful pictures. Mostly not, we went to Vermont, we went to Burlington, and then we went to Montpelier. And then when we started going through the White Mountains of New Hampshire, then we got the most gorgeous hills. And so that was wonderful. So at least we got something out of that. And we enjoyed visiting Vermont and finding out about Vermont. We had a really good time there. And then we went to Salem, where we did a 2-hour witch tour with the one guy who seems to be an actual historian and lived there all his life. And I personally hated Salem. So if you're going to go there, I just thought it was all the witch shops and it was a bad tourist district, and all these women rolling through with their witch hats on and witch costumes. And we're talking about 20 people who were hung, who had nothing to do with witchcraft, but were blamed for it. And then people coming in and pretending this is like some kind of costume party. I found it quite insulting to the dead people. And the town was just overrun. It was just, so I didn't love it, but loved Boston. We went to Boston and we had a fabulous time in Boston. So, hey, I loved Boston. My son loved Boston. We're both like, we're going to go back. So if you're a Bostonian, thumbs up to you for having a great city. Clean, calm. People were really nice, nicely dressed, but not overdressed, relaxed people. The parks were sensational. The architecture was amazing. Loved it. So anyway, just a couple pictures for you. This is the two of us. We went to see Hamilton at the Opera House, and that is Dave Cinnamon, aka Cinnamon. And here's the outside of the Opera House, and this is what it looks like inside. It's an absolutely stunning place. And there I am. Of course, I have to show off the Hamilton. Just so you know, I actually saw Hamilton. And this is the only other picture I'm going to show you. This is back in Vermont. Went to this really wonderful place. The rain started, and we ate out on this patio. And the waiter was so fun that he came over and sat with us, and we hung out for like an hour together. It was just great. So we had a good time. Anyway, I'm back. So it was a whole week off. I had to cancel the hangout during the last week, which I've never done in 4 years. And so it was weird to be away for a whole week and not work. But I'm glad you're all back. I feel back to normal, almost. So anyway, if you're new to the channel, by the way, do like and subscribe, and check the playlists of all the different cases I've done, and also look below for Patreon if you'd like to be in the chat room with the people that are here tonight, who are great people. So anyway, is Cinnamon married? Asking for a friend. No, Frida, he is not married. So if he got a lovely person for him, a lovely lady, he might be quite interested. Neither one of them are married. And I don't know why. It's like these days, people seem to be getting married way later. And I don't know, it's just the whole dating scene, or people just, people used to get married because they meet like at 18 years old. They were already had a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and they got married, or they went to college and married somebody in college. And now it's like everybody goes to work, travels, And by the time they get around to thinking about getting married, they're in their 30s. Then they've already had a bunch of boyfriends, girlfriends, and it's a rougher. And sometimes they come with baggage, like kid baggage, Oh, I'd love to be with you, at least I hope you like kids, So, yeah, so these guys are not married. So, yeah, and it's not because I want grandchildren. I just want them to be happy. I always think it would be nice for them to have a companion and have a family. So, my daughter is married. She's just celebrated her 13th anniversary with her husband, and my one granddaughter living next door is there. So, anyway. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had a total week off since I started the channel, because I started during COVID. Yeah, I can't remember if I ever did. Maybe I did do that before. I'm trying to remember now. I know my son and I, Cinnamon, we did a Miami Keys trip. I don't know if that's before or after I started the channel. And we also went out. I also went out to the West Coast, and yeah, we did a whole West Coast trip. So I don't know. I may have no memory, but you should do the pre-date psycho screening for them. Yeah, I try to keep away from that. I don't want my sons to think I'm interfering with their lives. If they want to pick themselves a psycho, I guess that's it. If you ever go there, you want to go get the tour with Jeff. Jeff is excellent, and it's for what it happened, 1692 or something like that. Can't remember now. He was excellent. It's not a tour for a child because it is heavy on history, and so yeah. So I was sad to see Salem had turned into a massive tourist trap and was so insulting to what happened there. I really found that annoying. So anyway, let's see. Saying hello to everybody else who's rolled in here. All right. So anyway, let's move on. All right. So I am taking an art course, and so I was forced to make a ball. So I made a ball. I don't know where the ball is going. For some reason, I put it on a couple of whatever it's rolling down a hill. I don't even know even the purpose of that. But anyway, I made a ball. So I'm taking an online by a very good pastel artist. So I'm trying to learn things that I normally don't do. So yes, always try something new. That's what I want to tell you. Try something new. All right. I also just did this show. And this, so I recommend that you watch this. This is a man, his name is Vedam, Subu Vedam. He was convicted at he was 19 when everything went down. He was convicted. He spent over 40 years in prison. That's him on the right now. The Innocence Project got him out. And now he's being deported to India because he never got his citizenship when he was living in Pennsylvania. And he's actually got an Indian. He's actually an Indian citizen, so they're like going to deport him to India. And so I did a show on that because, yet again, we have an Innocence Project person who they got out on a technicality. As usual, it's a technicality, and it bugs me always because don't say somebody's innocent if you got them out on a technicality. So I go through the case. If you haven't seen it yet, I go through the whole case. And the 5 main reasons why the 2 juries found him guilty. So check it out. All right. Oh, now here's something that's annoying the crap out of me. All right. Amy Bradley. Now, Amy Bradley has been making money for I don't know how many YouTubers because they have gone whole hog after the documentary came out on Amy Bradley. And they're like, oh my God, Amy Bradley didn't go over the side of the ship. She didn't fall. She didn't have an accidental death or a suicidal death. No. She was kidnapped off the ship. She was taken into sex trafficking, and YouTubers. I mean, they're making killing off of this. Anyway, now we have News Nation. Now, I get where certain channels aren't so concerned about the professional reputation. But a news channel called News Nation, which is a big channel it is on YouTube. That's, but it's considered a channel that does legitimate crime coverage. This, my folks, is not legitimate crime coverage. This is garbage. New leads suggest Amy Bradley could be alive. No, they do not. There's not one rational lead that says she is alive. And I'll try to remember to put the link below for my Amy Bradley, the whole coverage, the whole analysis I did of Amy Bradley disappearing, and then a more recent updating on that after the documentary came out. And I said over and over again, regardless of any other concepts you may have, the continual push that sex trafficking involves kidnapping women off of cruise ships to start an international investigation is ludicrous. Sex traffickers don't need to do that because they have lots of opportunities to have women who want to be involved in prostitution because they want to make the money. There's a lot of poor people. There's a lot of people with drug problems. There's people who just want to, whatever reasons they want to get into it. And if they're going to sex traffic anybody, they're going to find easy people to sex traffic, not somebody is going to start an international investigation. That's stupid, and that doesn't happen that way. So the constant push to make this an issue about sex trafficking, and that on top of it, that she's still alive. Even if she isn't sex trafficked, she's still alive. Nobody's seen her, but she's now 40, 50 years old, supposedly was close with her brother and her family, but no, she didn't bother to contact them in how many decades it is now. It's ludicrous. Now, I understand families love to believe that their loved ones are alive when they're obviously not, but it's unethical for channels to push the sex trafficking concept just to make money. And it really pisses me off when News Nation does something like this, because if you got to have at least a few channels out there that are news channels, not analysis channels like mine, but news channels that might bring on some professionals to talk about things in a rational manner and not push conspiracy theories that are stupid. And that just really annoys me. I saw that. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Yes, Clarissa, sad to see some journalists go to those channels. It's, it's very problematic. We need to bring ethics back into journalism. It's one of the reasons I don't rarely involve myself in any of the channels anymore, including regular television channels, because a lot of times I don't think they care about the truth or they care about the facts. What they want is something that gets viewers and makes money. And, I understand wanting to get viewers and make money. That's part of a business plan for both television and for YouTube, but still have some ethics. So anyway, hi, how am I? Well, I came back. I'll tell you this. I came back, and first I got myself a new iPhone, and I spent part of my day just going insane because you can't make anything work on the new phone because everything's moved around and you can't figure it out. So I had to constantly go to YouTube and say, how do I remove this? How do I get rid of that? And thank God for those channels. They did help me. And then today, the toilet overflowed, backed up into the shower. So I've had my son-in-law, my daughter's been over here trying to snake the whole thing out. It's a complete disaster. So, I can't use it. And so that was going on. So I kind of returned to like a temporary hell. But other than that, it's all good. It's all good. Sometimes they have good stuff. Oh, of course they do. The problem is, I just think people need to differentiate, at least to narrow down the channels that have reasonably good stuff and the channels that are just out there for sensationalism. And that includes any kind of shows you watch that are on, on even MSM, So temporary. Well, I hope it doesn't last too long because it's not fun, and I'm not sure it smells great. It's like, ooh. Anyway, I have to. Luckily, my daughter does live next door, so what I'm going to be doing is running up and down, going out the front door in the middle of the night and running up and down the stairs to her bathroom. So that'll be a joy. But yeah, anyway, let's get to some other interesting stuff. Okay. What do I got here? Who is that? Oh, well, some of the top stories of the day, of course, would be this character. Okay, so the fake Maddie McCann. There's always been the fake Maddie McCann. So hold on a second, let me find the update on her. So she's in court now with her some other woman who I don't know who she is, who they both were stalking the McCanns and some of the McCann's friends, which is I thought was quite unique, like them too. So the two members of the top of seven, they went to court and broke their silence. That's David and Fiona Payne, and they went in and said that she was stalking them too, and they got pissed off because they started stalking their daughter. And so the same thing with the McCanns. This character. Just a minute here, so I just want to read what it says here. So this is Julia Wandelt, 24 years old. They gave evidence against her. She is a Polish woman, a 100% Polish woman, who's been charged with stalking Jerry and Kate McCann after she launched a relentless social media campaign, which she insisted she was a missing toddler. Here's my thing. I'm not that bothered by Julia. You know why? Julia, in my opinion, is someone who has personality disorder that might start with the P word. And those people exist in the world. But the reason she got so much attention was, guess why? Can you imagine how did this girl who it ridiculously claimed to be Madeleine McCann, how did it become such a big thing to the point where she was everywhere? Just a quick hint. She's been all over the internet sprouting crap. But why did she have the opportunity to sprout crap? Because she was all over the internet. Why was she all over the internet? Because a whole bunch of disreputable channels pushed her as Madeleine McCann. And that psychic crazy woman, she pushed her as Madeleine McCann. People glommed onto her because they were going to make money off of a person who should have been ignored and just laughed at, basically, and said, "Look, don't play your games. You're obviously a fraud. We're not going to put you on our channel and talk to you." Because I've had people say things like, "Well, why didn't you have Julie on your channel?" No, she's a fraud. She's a liar. She's a manipulator. She's an attention seeker. And somebody that starts with a P word, probably. No, I'm not going to give her a platform, but a whole bunch of people gave her a platform. And consequently, that kept bolstering her. Even when there was proof out there that she was 100% Polish, and it's obvious she wasn't Madeleine McCann for reasons that many of us know, because Madeleine McCann has probably been dead since the day she disappeared. Anyway, or before she disappeared. But all over the place. And that gave her more and more power and got to the point where she could go after the McCanns and the McCanns' friends and continue the crazy path she was on, stalking, because it gave her a sense of power, as a thrill. She loved what she was doing, but too many people gave her a chance to do it. In the old days, that wouldn't have gone very far. I mean, she would have just been ignored. But again, people making money because they don't really care whether it's true or not. And so now she's in court, and I hope she gets nailed. I hope she goes to prison. But will she? She should go to prison. I just don't know whether they're going to give her a slap on the wrist and send her back to Poland and say she needs some psychological help, which will not help because people with the P word do not benefit from psychological help. She will just go on. She's already said she's a couple other people who are missing. I'm sure she'll find another missing person to pretend she is. Absolutely. Of course she feels validated. Everybody's like, "Oh my God, yes. Poor Julie." What's her name again? Julia, I forget sometimes. Yeah, they gave her the platform. Some of them are ex-convicts. Interesting. And somebody said, the cleaning ladies must have been like, yeah. Well, they didn't have to clean the bathroom this time. There's some advantages for them. They couldn't clean it because it was being snaked. So I just told them to spend extra time in my bedroom dusting, So anyway, but I'm again frustrated because, there's nothing wrong with giving a platform to something that has a reasonable amount of factual stuff to go with it. So, but that is, again, people can say whatever they want to say and they can do whatever they want to do. We do have free speech, so people want to give her a platform. She wants to speak, and there you go. So, but very annoying, super annoying. What's the other one? Who is this? Who am I looking at here? Oh, yeah, okay. Now this incredibly sad situation. There is an entire report out, and hold on a second here. What would I do with it? What did I do with it? Okay. Now I have a lot of things open for whatever reasons. So I have to look really hard to find whatever I'm doing here. Okay, where did it go? Let me go over here. Hold on a second. What the heck? Where did it go? We're in Pennsylvania. Where'd it go? Okay, here we go. I think. All right. This is the death of Ellen Greenberg. And she was her death, even though she was stabbed like ungodly amount of times, was ruled a suicide originally. Then the family fought that this was not a suicide, and they got a medical examiner at the time or whomever to say it was not likely to be a suicide. Something else happened. Well, now they've reviewed it yet again, and this new person is Lindsay Simon. She's a chief medical examiner of the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office. So she's a big person in the whole thing. The medical examiner's office was asked to conduct an independent and unbiased review of all available materials relating to the death of Ellen Greenberg. I'm going to start with, is it independent and unbiased when you're part of a political system that has so strongly said for so long that she was not murdered? I would love to see that somebody who didn't even know what the case was looked at it in an unbiased form. Like send it to another country or somebody, don't give her a name and just say, hey, this is a victim, or this is person A who ended up dead this way. But she reviewed things, and it's a very long thing. And so I cannot give you an answer as to what I think of her review. I have done a show on Ellen Greenberg, did an analysis. I did not come up with suicide, which for me is unusual. Hold on a second. Losing my voice. Anyone who knows me knows two things. One, I very rarely find the Innocent Project correct when they say somebody's innocent. Happens on occasion. But most of the time I find they're getting people out in technicalities who are actually probably guilty. Two, almost all deaths ruled suicide are suicide. And there's only a couple that I have run into in my whole last 30 years in profiling, somewhere around there. I've run into a couple. Ellen Greenberg was one that I just cannot see this as a suicide. Another Another one, which I don't know if I've done the show on it yet. I haven't done the show on it. But basically, a young man was found hanged in his bedroom. And the police ruled it suicide. The family fought and fought and fought, as many families do, that he didn't, and especially hangings. Hangings are almost 99.9% always suicide or autoerotic asphyxiation. One of those two, but not murder. Especially you have no damage to the body. Nothing's been done to them. They're not like, haven't been sedated and then stuck in a noose or anything. So you have a person with nothing in their system, no signs of any kind of damage to the body, hanging. That is almost always a suicide. And he had stepped on a chair and put his head through a noose. And then stepped off the chair. Except he didn't. In a very rare case, this guy, he was with a guy who was actually a serial killer. And he's like, hey, let's play this game and we'll take pictures. It'll be cool, like, you know. And he had him stand up there and put his head in a noose and said, oh, we'll take pictures. And then he pushed him off the chair. Very rare. Ellen Greenberg, very rare. Now, do people stab themselves to death? Absolutely. They do. This time, it didn't look like that's what happened. Along with the fiance's very concerning behaviors. So anyway, she says here, and she's reviewed all these things, materials reviewed. She has consulted reports from Cyril Wecht, Henry Lee, Tom Brennan, 8 different people. An initial report of death, initial investigation, blah, blah, blah. So we've got 32 pages here. Interesting enough, quite a few of the people thought she was murdered who analyzed the stuff. So it wasn't like everybody agreed that, oh, it was clearly suicide. A lot of them said she was murdered. But she comes to the conclusion at the end that no, the original determination was correct, that she could have actually stabbed herself in these ways. And there were some hesitation marks. And then she gives her explanation that she could have done it. All right. I have not read the 32 pages yet. I think I will have to read the 32 pages. So I'll probably do a completely separate show on. I have to go back and look at what conclusions I came to, because it's been a while. And I have to go back over everything I determined. And then I'm going to read this and see whether I'm wrong. See whether that, in spite of everything, this woman has managed to determine that it was a suicide. But until I go through this entire 32 pages and to see what all her rationale is for everything, all the logic, whether what she says is so, I don't like the term she could have, because a lot of people could have done something. Doesn't mean they did it. So could have is different from they did. Then there are also other questions. If she could have committed suicide, could she also have been murdered? So I don't know. I'm going to look back over to see. I believed when I did my analysis that the evidence supported homicide. But she is a medical examiner, not a detective, by the way. There's a bit of a problem there, and I want to explain a little bit of that. A medical examiner often is not, they can look at what the wounds are on the body, what happened to the body. They can look at a cause of death. They got that going. However, the manner of death is the problem. You can have a cause of death the manner of death can be different for a cause of death. For example, let's say a cause of death could be a gunshot to the head. But that doesn't mean it could be accident, suicide, or homicide. Just because you're as a medical examiner, you're looking at that doesn't mean you know what happened. That's where the rest of the investigation comes in, what the detectives found, what the scene says, all these other things. That's where, and sometimes what will happen is the detectives will, having been on the scene, having seen everything, and have done their analysis, will go to the medical examiner and say, we think the manner of death is this. And they will explain why that, and then a lot of times the medical examiner will simply put down the manner of death as to whatever the detectives say. So people think a medical examiner is like a detective. They're not. They're detective as to cause of death, but manner of death they are not. So I think there's a misunderstanding there. Now, does that mean that a medical examiner can't be damn good if they have an opportunity to review all the crime scene photos and to profile the crime? They couldn't be right. I'm not saying they can't be, but I'll do a whole video on it because there's just no way I can do that in the show. Because I have to go over everything she's saying. And the other possibility is, and I'll say this, be fair, I'm trying to remember where I got all the information from prior to this. Sometimes what happens is when you're outside the investigation, you get a selected certain amount of information that the police have given out, family has given out. And that's why I always want to see the police reports. If I'm working on a case, I want to go in. First thing I want to see, crime scene photos. Second thing I want to see is the autopsy, the medical examiner's report. I want to see what they come up with. I want to see pictures with little, this is how many things are lacerations, how many things are holes in their body, whatever. I want to see all that. I want to see the autopsy photos so I can compare the autopsy photos to what the medical examiner is saying, because I've seen some that don't match. And then I have the crime scene photos. So I got those three. Then I want the police reports. So I try to determine what happened based on the crime scene and the autopsy photos and the medical examiner's report. That's where I start with. Then I ask for the police reports. Then I ask for the interviews, and I move out from this part to this part. I don't know with this particular case where I got the information from at the time, because it was a while back and I don't know where it came from. Now, hold on a second, my eye just, sorry. Oh my God, something in my eye. Anyway, now I've got this report. I'm not saying this report is accurate. It's her report. But there's a lot of information in this report. Is there enough information for me to then determine, to see whether what she's saying is credible? And I will let you know when I do that. So I guess that's my job for next week, for sure. The boyfriend is well connected. This is true. And this is why the political thing all came into play here. Now, just because somebody is well connected doesn't mean they're a murderer either. Even if they're being protected by certain people, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have committed a criminal act. But on the other hand, sometimes if you are connected, you can get a lot more help than if you're not connected. So there we go. I don't know. At this point, I really don't know. His family doesn't want to believe. Well, of course not. His family and her family doesn't want to believe. So you got the two sides quite often. The case I was just talking about, I forgot how to pronounce his name. Subavedam, the guy that was just released out of the Pennsylvania prison. His relatives are cheering. India's cheering. This Indian man, well, he pretty much was an American, but because he came here at 9 months old. And he did go visit India a wee bit. But so India's like, oh, Americans wrongly imprisoned this poor Indian dude. Was probably going to get a crap load of money, even if he's sent back to India. Anyway, and then, of course, the Innocence Project, yay! And then everybody who thinks everybody's racist says, oh, those white racist stories, they just didn't like this Indian man. He was the only Indian man in town at the time, true. And, well, only in his sister, I take the back, his dad was there, and then his mom and sister, so 4 of them. They were new. But just because you have a white jury and an Indian guy doesn't mean they convicted him because he was Indian. So, but you get all this emotional stuff, this political stuff, this whatever. So you get people cheering on this side. You get people upset on this side because they're like, one of the sides is correct and one of the sides is not correct. But the families always believe they're on the correct side. That's kind of the way it is. Okay, this is Halifax says she had a lot of small hesitation injuries that could be self-inflicted, but some of the wounds seem too difficult to do oneself. Now, this is where I have to really examine this. Hesitation marks are a sign of somebody who is, trying to kill themselves off, harm themselves, but they're like, I don't know, I don't know. And then finally they go, okay. Hesitation marks can happen with a murder as well. Just saying. No. But she supposedly had no defense wounds. So I have to go back over all of this just because I don't, again, I don't know, it was a while back when I analyzed the case. Maybe I didn't have enough information. Maybe there's now all this information. Maybe the family and the defense attorneys and everybody else has been hiding the whole amount of information from the public, which I've seen happen before, so that we all think, oh my God, this is wrong. This is horrible. The woman didn't kill herself. And then you find out, which I have found out, by the way, when I've worked on cases where I hear a whole story in the media and I hear a whole story from the family. And then I get there, I'm like, okay, that's not true. Because I'm looking at the evidence, And so outside the case, sometimes we do not know. But okay, so that is really, so I'm going to look at it though. So believe you me, I'll get to it. I want to, and on that note of suicide or not suicide, where are you, dude? Okay, where'd he go? Oh, where is he? Where's he going? Oh, did I forget his picture? I did. Sorry, his picture's not here. Okay, let me find the story. Okay, so remember that guy the other week I talked about it. There were two men, one white and one black, that were found hanging in, okay, let me find what, I think we're talking Alabama or Georgia. I'm trying to remember which one it was. Okay, hold on a second. I really put too much stuff in here. I just have an overdose of stuff. Most of the stuff I won't get done tonight, but for some reason I found all these cases and kept throwing them up here. So, okay, where did he go? Okay, here we go. Now, hold on. I love it when you're also patient. As I say that, a lot of people are like, I'm done with her. Click. I'm gone. Okay, here we go. Okay. No, I'm not terribly organized. I never have been. All right. So this fellow, his name was, it was Alabama. A state autopsy has ruled that a black man found hanging in an abandoned Alabama home in late September died by suicide, a conclusion that contradicts a private autopsy commissioned by his family, which found no definitive evidence he died by suicide. Okay, okay, let me start with that. This is defense lawyer speak. No definitive evidence that he died by suicide. What evidence would that be? He didn't leave a suicide note. If he did, you just say somebody else wrote it, or made him write it. What did you want for a definitive proof of suicide? I'll tell you what the definitive proof of suicide generally is: that there's no other injuries to the body, and they weren't drugged. So it's like this. If this guy's a big guy, he's a strong fellow. I wish I had his picture, which I do not have at the moment. All right, his name is Denoris Richardson. He was discovered in September in rural Colbert County, far from his home in Sheffield, Alabama, a small town of nearly 10,000, nestled along the Tennessee River. A state autopsy released to law enforcement in late December ruled the 39-year-old's death, I didn't know he's that old, a suicide. Despite the state's official findings, the case has sparked intense suspicion and outcry in the community, with a long history of racial injustice and a deep-seated distrust of local law enforcement. So Ballantine called for an FBI investigation. And then let's see who else. I think it was, who else was involved in this? The wife said she doesn't believe he killed himself, which all wives say. And then they got a private autopsy done. I think Ben Crump was rolling around down there, because Ben Crump will take advantage of anybody, anywhere, at any time. Anyway, so The private autopsy conducted by forensic pathologist Dr. Adel Shaker, I know that guy's name for some reason, affirmed the state's findings that Dolores Richardson died from asphyxia secondary to neck compression, which is consistent with hanging. But the report noted that the hyoid neck bone, which is sometimes fractured in deaths from hanging and strangulation, wasn't present when Shaker examined the body. So it was impossible for him to determine whether he was killed or committed suicide. The hyoid bone does not always offer conclusive evidence about the manner of death. You cannot opine on the manner of death based on the hyoid bone alone. A quarter of all hangings and half of all strangulations have the hyoid bone broke, and then you have the others that don't. And it's also standard practice to remove the hyoid bone in cases like Richardson, and that he could only give it to the private pathologist performing, and would only give it to the private pathologist performing secondary autopsies upon request. Richardson did not have any bodily injuries except for his neck, and his toxicology report was normal. Those were important observations. But the private autopsy says, well, we don't know how if he still could have been murdered. All right. The family was really pushing that he was murdered. Here's the thing, especially when you got a big guy. It's really hard to hang somebody and have them cooperate. Now, people will say, oh, they put a gun to his head and said, put your head in the noose. Okay, that almost never happens. So what you usually have happen is when a person is murdered, there's usually some kind of fight of some sort, unless they're drugged. And we haven't even heard yet what his psychological situation was. And many times what we do here is what the defense and the family tries to keep quiet is the fact that he's had somebody's had previous suicide attempts, or they're highly depressed, whatever. There's some issue. But generally speaking, suicides by hanging are suicides. And rarely are they ever homicides. I'm willing to look at a case and see whether it's homicide. And I have been contacted with quite a few families who believed their loved ones didn't hang themselves, that they were murdered. Even with, I have one case, the girl killed herself, and she wrote the longest girly suicide note you'd ever seen. But they blamed her uncle forever. You killed her. The police said it was clearly suicide. And they had the suicide note, and they believed that the uncle killed her. He ended up in a psychiatric institute because the family turned on him. He was the one that found the body. And he was just, was horrified when he found his niece. Poor guy. They came to me asking for me to review the case. I came back and said, look, she was suffering from severe depression. She had this issue. She hung herself in a way that was that is very easy to do, which is simply, you go get a tie from your robe, tie it in the closet, and you just sink to your knees, and that's it. And you just can't stand up again after you pass out. That's the way the uncle found her. I heard the 911 call. It's the most saddest 911 call. The guy was hyperventilating all over the place. He was not faking anything. He was just totally distraught. And there was no sign that she was, no bruises to her body, no nothing. And then she left this long suicide note, exactly why she had taken her life, with loopy girl handwriting and little hearts and everything over the eyes. I'm like, look, I'm a female, but I can't even write that kind of a teenage thing. You think her uncle is able to do that? No. So I went back to the family and I said, I just want to tell you that she was just suffering from, she was a confused teenager. And that's the way it is. And they turned on me immediately and said, you're just a terrible profiler, which is what happens almost every time I've ever taken a case like that. Since if I come up with something, they want me to agree with them. And if I don't agree with them, they turn on me. I've had people actually go on the internet and say, I went to her because I thought she was a decent profile. And now I know she sucks. She's a fraud. Because I would go along with that their loved one was murdered. And that's the way it goes. It's just sad, but true. Oh, well, good question, Cauliflower. I wonder sometimes how many independent autopsies someone needs to pay for to get the answer they want. Oh, and you would not believe how many times they do go after one autopsy, after the other, believing that if the person doesn't agree with them, that they won't go public with it because they were privately, hired. A lot of things, I haven't publicly gone public with an awful lot of things that I know that the family has pissed off at me because, generally speaking, I don't want to put them through more torture. But so I've just quietly given them the results and gone away. And then sometimes I come back years later and say, oh my God, they've trashed my name. And they found somebody to agree with them. So yeah, that is the way it works. Yeah, that's very sad, but that's true. And same thing is true for our private investigators. A lot of times they will charge $50 to $100 an hour. They will follow every lead the family wants them to follow because they're making money. So yeah, did they get mad at you? Oh yeah. I mean, and that's one reason I rarely do those kind of things anymore, because I did most of it pro bono. And believe me, not only did I work for free, but then I got brutally trashed, by the people I was trying to help, and sometimes publicly trashed. Kind of like, So anyway, very, very unfortunate. Anyway, so let's see what else I want to talk about here. Okay, we did her. Okay, this guy, I hope if you just go on YouTube, if I forget to ever link below the actual interview. This guy does an interview of this guy who's been charged with killing his parents, and he confesses during the interview. And it's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. I'm like, whoa, he really did confess during the interview. So let me find that story there. It's incredible. Like, what the heck? I mean, let me find him. Here we go. So his name is Lorenz Krauz. How the question here is, which is interesting, because one of the problems we have, I think, in our world today is that we have so much money behind defense attorneys at the moment and the media that they can take something that is so obvious and turn it around and get people off through the Innocence Project or through and all kinds of methodologies. And what's happening is people who are actually horrible criminals are getting not ending up in prison or ending up with a shorter sentence. So this CBS 6 exclusive on-camera confession from Lorenz Krauz, accused of killing his parents, has been viewed millions of times and picked up by national outlets, raising a question about how it could impact his case as it goes to trial. You think, like Brian Koberger, Karen Reed, we have the media and the defense attorneys are behind 90% of the media stuff that's out there. They are pushing it because the more they push it, the more they get a jury that will be on their side, and the more they can claim that, they were influenced by blood, whatever. So they're going to say, oh my God, now everybody's seen this thing, and they're going to, he's confessed on, well, that's the whole point. So they say they can't get a jury that will come in and go, I have no idea who this guy is, and I never heard his confession. And maybe they haven't, but they're going to say, because jurors lie, they'll say they haven't seen something when they surely have. So especially if so the defense attorney has that to be able to push. So he may be happy the guy confessed online because it was pretty obvious the guy killed his parents anyway. So let me tell you how it all worked out. So he's 53 years old. He admitted on camera to suffocating his parents, Franz and Teresia Krauz, saying he did it to end their suffering. Okay. Now, mind you, there was no information anyplace that his parents wanted their suffering to be ended, but he took it upon himself, as he says, that he, as a good son, knew he had to do right by his parents. All right. So he spoke candidly during a 32-minute interview and later in a separate jailhouse interview. Legal experts say the viral nature of the confession could pose challenges when it comes to jury selection. Maybe one of the problems is maybe they should not be interviewed prior to the darn trial. Maybe there should be a gag order. I believe in gag orders. I mean, it's not as much fun for media people, but I like gag orders. Because are we interested in a proper trial, or are we interested in inflaming the entire public? So, hold on a second. Where are my notes? I think defense counsel is going to make a motion to change venue. They're going to say that so many people have seen it, they've already formed an opinion as to whether he's guilty or not. Oh, because he confessed in detail about how he killed them. I admit, I watched that video, and I think he killed them. Okay. And they will likely file another, this is interesting, likely file another motion to suppress the confession altogether, leaving the decision in the hands of the judge. If the confession is ruled inadmissible, Hengyi says the medical examiner's report will become even more crucial. All right. It's going to be key then, because the confession is suppressed. Now you need evidence that's going to tie him to the crime. And you also have to be able to prove that he intentionally killed them. How do you, okay. 2 people died. They were suffocated. How did he not intentionally kill them? They were like snacking in bed, and he said, "Oh, Mom, Pa, I want to join you." So he threw a pillow on top of their faces and laid down on them. Had no idea that would kill them. They didn't even come up with a good reason for this. During both interviews, so the government says government has to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt, and there we go. All we need is 1 out of 12. Why I'm for a professional jury. Anyway, during both interviews with CBS 6, Krauz said he believed ending his parents' lives was his duty as they grew older. These kids behind me, you better not be knocking me off just because I'm getting older. And apparently they gave hints that they wanted him to act. Okay. I might tell my children, if I have severe Alzheimer's and don't know who the heck you are, and I don't want to eat, because that's what happens to a lot of Alzheimer's patients. They lose a desire to eat. And then sadly, in my opinion, they're often pushed to eat. They're constantly putting food in their mouths to try to say, you have to eat something. You have to eat something. No, maybe if they don't know who they are, who anybody else is, their lives suck. They have zero quality of life. Maybe just let them not eat, so that they can pass away sooner and not have to suffer more. Would I might tell the 3 kids that? Yeah, you just don't force food down my throat. If I don't want to eat, probably because I'm ready to leave. But on the other hand, if I end up smothered to death in my bed, and they say, "Oh, Mom gave hints that she was getting tired of living," or whatever they're going to come up with, because I'm not here to say that they're lying dogs. All right. The Albany County District Attorney's Office could not comment on whether the autopsies have been completed by the medical examiner. All right. Krauz's bombshell confession was done on September 25th, 2025, a couple days after police started investigating the parents' home. All right. What they found was this. All right. So they were investigating a financial crimes investigation. In other words, he was stealing their money from, they was getting their income from Social Security or whatever for quite a long time. And they then discovered 2 bodies buried in the backyard. I guess that's when they accidentally died. Put them in their graves. The first body was found on September 24th, and the second one on September 25th. And hours later, he reached out to CBS 6 and agreed to come to the station for an interview. He was arrested in the station parking lot shortly after the interview. Yeah, he was taking their money. And I had another article on it now. I don't know what I did with it, of course. But apparently, people thought the couple had gone back to Germany, and he was just collecting the money. So, the guilty as heck. I mean, I'm sorry. This case should not even take more than 30 minutes. But the defense attorneys will do everything they can to suppress the confession. Then they'll come up with some other stuff. And then they'll work to have reasonable doubt for at least one person that they find may understand that the parents may have killed themselves and he just buried them because they would like him to get their money. I can't wait to see what comes of this. Yeah, they've been gone for a while. Yes, I think it was 2007. He's been collecting money for a long time. Yep. Yes, here we go. Thank you. I couldn't find the other article. Cauliflower says he kept collecting the Social Security and then tried to say, well, I donated all the money. He had good intentions. He has a lot of good intentions. He killed his parents because he didn't want them to suffer. He took their money, but he wanted to help other people. So, yeah, he's a sweetie, Yeah, real nice guy. Oof. Who is that? Oh, somebody asked me to just I'll just quickly mention it because I just don't have much to go on yet. Where are they? Where are they? Oh, more things I've forgotten. Okay, I will skip that. I'm going to go to this just because I'm going to go to my. Oh, this is just the weirdest thing ever. So this little girl. She went on a field trip. She's 6 years old. Pretty little thing. She went on a field trip to, I guess it's one of these farms or the corn maze and all that kind of stuff. And somehow she gets separated from. It's a school trip. Somehow they notice she's missing somewhere during the trip, and she's found drowned in the swimming pool, which has a fence around it. So of course the family's obviously pretty pissed because they sent their child on a school trip and she ends up drowned. So they're angry in a number of ways. They're angry that the chaperones didn't do their job. They're angry that how did the daughter access a swimming pool? Why was this part was not part of the field trip? So how did she end up on the other side of the road? Why was the swimming pool not properly secured? Which I don't know if it was or wasn't. They haven't come up with any information on this yet, so I'm going to keep an eye out. But it's a weird story just because I can't even figure out why, even if she got separated from the herd and was wandering around, why she would end up in a swimming pool. I mean, it's just weird. First of all, I don't understand why she's separated because usually kids like to hang out with their friends. And they're so I don't know how she got separated. Now, can chaperones lose somebody? I mean, supposedly they keep checking, hopefully they have enough chaperones, but I've seen sometimes they don't have enough chaperones. And so they got too many kids per person and they can't count because they're, okay. No one said they were raised in public schools. Okay. I can't count. Okay. I was a homeschooler, so I'm a little surly about that. Anyway, and my granddaughter's in public school right now, and her math is terrible. Anyway, why did she get missed? Why did she get separated from? Why did they not notice she was missing? But how did she get separated when she's with a group of people doing fun things? Usually kids stay together to do fun things. How did she wander off? And if she wandered off, what the heck? Why is she wandering off into, well, I don't even know where they were doing stuff. I would think of that. It looks like a corn maze thing over there. But she would have to cross the road and climb into the swimming pool area. Even a 6-year-old, I'm not sure why a 6-year-old would go into someone's private backyard, climb into the swimming pool, and drown. I just don't get it. So I'm just wondering if there's more to this story. And I'm not going to start any conspiracy theories here, but I just wonder. It's so weird that, I mean, it could be just a freak accident thing with a kid. And only other thing I wonder about is, and they haven't said anything, but the only time I see this kind of thing tend to play out is if the child is autistic. And because they're autistic, their normal 6-year-old choices are a little off. They act a little differently than a normal 6-year-old. I haven't seen anything that she's autistic yet. So I'll be watching that to see how the heck she could have possibly ended up in the swimming pool. Went to the bathroom. Well, she wouldn't know where the bathroom was. You usually go to the bathroom with somebody. And you don't go to the bathroom in somebody's house. I mean, they have places for that. They probably have porta johns, I would assume, in that kind of case. Or if it's their own. Yeah. But what's she doing in a swimming pool? You don't go to the bathroom in a swimming pool. So I don't know. Well, I don't know. This is another question. What happened? Why are the chaperones, not doing chaperoning. So it's an interesting case. I'm going to keep my eye on that one just because I think it's really weird. Okay, I want to go to my soapbox because I just feel like drugs are a victimless crime. Holy crap. All right. There is a thing. I want to see how many people know what this is because this was new to me. And it is destroying the young people of Fiji and the young people of Lesotho. The Fiji out in the South Pacific, they have an HIV epidemic now from drugs. And over here in Lesotho, which is a landlocked country in South Africa, there's one of the top places for HIV, and it's just decimating the population and the young people. So I want to know if you know what this is, and don't cheat by Googling it. Don't Google it. Come on now. I know it's easy to do, but okay. It's called, I'm going to go right up here and see if anybody can answer me within 30 seconds so I know you didn't Google. Bluetoothing or hotspotting. Now we're talking about drugs. Bluetoothing or hotspotting. Does anybody know what that is? Never heard of it. I had not either. Got me. And I know a lot about drug stuff. I did not know about this. This is the craziest thing I've ever heard, and it's horrifying. Nope. Liz is like, nope. Nope. Well, we got it pretty much. No. All right. You're not going to believe this crap. If you've never heard of it, you're not going to believe it. They're not just sharing needles, they're sharing blood. How HIV cases soared in Fiji. Okay. How does this work? I will let you know. Because I just, when people keep saying drugs, it's a victimless crime. No, drugs have destroyed individuals. They've destroyed families, destroyed children, they've destroyed communities. They've destroyed countries. Because if the U.S. wasn't buying so much crap from so much drugs, we wouldn't have the cartels in Mexico. We would not. So I point fingers at my own country. I'm like, and also Europe. Europe, you're also huge users of drugs. And it is killing countries because wherever there's a market, there's a seller. And the seller in this case, you're going to say, if you have never heard of this, you're not going to believe what this is actually. All right. So it says here 10. That is the age of the youngest person with HIV that this particular person who's dealing with this has ever met. When she first started Fiji's Survivor Advocacy Network in 2013, that young boy was yet to be born. Now he's one of the thousands of Fijians. Now Fiji, if anybody knows, is a fairly small country in the South Pacific, somewhere between Hawaii and Tahiti. And I considered going there because it seemed like a great place because it's kind of an interesting mix of 50% Indian origin and 50% Polynesian, which I'm like, hey, this is cool. And it's a very expensive flight, though, and a really long flight. So I haven't decided to go there. Now I'm reading this and going, oh, my God. Now he's one of thousands of Fijians to have contracted the blood-borne virus in recent years, many of them aged 19 or younger, and many of them through intravenous drug use. Now, let me get down here to what the drug is. This is that's the most interesting thing, which I have no freaking clue. All right, underpinning Fiji's HIV epidemic is a spiraling trend of drug use, unsafe sex, needle sharing, and Bluetoothing, otherwise known as hotspotting. This latter term refers to a practice where an intravenous drug user withdraws their blood after a hit and injects it into a second person, and then to a third person, and then to a fourth person. Is that the craziest thing you've ever heard? I mean, wow. This person said they saw 8 kids huddling together. I saw this needle with blood. It was right there in front of me. This young woman, she'd already had the shot, and she's taking out the blood. And then you got the other girls lining up to be hit with the blood from that hypodermic needle. It's also become reported. Bluetoothing is also reported in South Africa and Lesotho, 2 countries with some of the highest HIV rates in the world. So, interestingly enough, it's meth. So Fiji has become a major Pacific trafficking hub for crystal meth over the past 15 years. Now, they're one of the Australia and New Zealand, the world's highest paying markets. Okay, Australia and New Zealand, I'm pointing fingers at you too. Your people need to stop doing drugs because you're destroying the world, including your own world. So anyway, what they're doing is the whole thing about I'm trying to figure out where it was here. Meth and Bluetoothing. Hold on, let me pull that up here a second. Just because I know I never thought of meth intravenously. I'm like, really? Intravenous? I mean, yeah, okay, meth intravenous. Am I spelling that right? Okay. Help is available. No, I'm not using it. It says help is available. Okay, yeah, okay. Shooting meth. Okay, I did look at this before. Shooting meth. Meth or methamphetamine is one of the most addictive and deadly of all drugs. In particular, shooting meth or injecting it is incredibly dangerous. Why are they doing this? Crystal meth, it's also known as crystal meth and ice, which I went to Hawaii, and I always used to talk about ice in Hawaii, and I didn't realize at the time that meant meth. So the reason they use originally developed as a nasal decongestant and for inhalers, meth produces an intensely powerful feeling of euphoria in users. Since its introduction in the United States in the 1930s, meth has become one of the most commonly abused and deadly drugs across the country. And we often hear these days about fentanyl and all of that, but we know meth is. There are many ways of using this dangerous drug. The most common ways: oral consumption, snorting, injecting, and smoking meth. Shooting meth is also referred to as slamming and produces a more intense and faster high compared to other ways to ingest the drug. And then does it last for 8 hours? Okay, it's got a very intense when you take it that way. You know, and what's so weird to me is that we've gone to this place where, you know, smoking a little weed sounds kind of, you know, back when I was in the 70s and stuff, it's like people smoked homegrown weed. It's like, what was that? I mean, it wasn't great for you or anything, but at least you weren't shooting somebody else's blood into your veins and getting HIV. I mean, and the sad thing is, it's like they can't go for something small. They have to go for something major, and they save money. This is the reason they're doing it, in case you wonder, is they pay for it and then they share it. And apparently, if you inject it and then you take the blood and you can share the blood, you actually can share it that way, so that you cut the cost of what each child has to pay. And it's a nightmare, absolute nightmare. So I will say, I hate drugs with passion. And I anybody says, oh, it's not a big deal. It is a huge deal. And you know, we need to stop it. Once upon a time, we had just say no to drugs. And now we just seem to have just given up, and we're just letting drugs flow every place. And my own sons, my daughter can tell you they know at least half a dozen people who've died of drug overdoses. And they're not drug users. They have never touched drugs. And they're not drug users, but they worked with people. When they get the phone call, oh my God, he OD'd. It's so sad. It's absolutely the saddest thing ever. And they're young people that are ODing. And some of these people aren't people, homeless people on the streets, although a good portion of them are drug users. But some of them are just regular people. And the saddest one I ever knew was a guy who lived with my son, Jeremy. And he was a computer whiz. I used to take any computer problem I had to him. He had a whole room just computers. He was paid very highly by the company. He would go in twice a week, but he worked out of his home. my son's home, and he was brilliant, so brilliant. And then he started doing drugs, and my daughter, who's a cop, said, look, I owned this house with him at the time. She says, you can't be doing that in the house. You cannot bring drugs into this house. You need to stop. And he said, okay, I'm going to move. And she told him, she said, look, you need to be around people who care about you. But he moved anyway. He was not gone for more than a couple of weeks. When the new room he had taken, he didn't report for work. And they went into the room and they found him sitting at the computer with a needle hanging out of his arm. He was about 32 years old. Just sickening. Absolutely so sad. It's not okay. 15 years sober. Good for you. He fell into the meth trap. Oh, thank God he cleaned up. I'm so glad. But the meth, it's just amazing how much of it is out there. I mean, yes, the person getting the blood gets the high. That's the whole bizarre. I never heard about that aspect of it. I mean, I knew there were other ways of, I'm not saying I didn't know you could use an IV. I mean, use a needle with meth, but I never heard of anybody sharing the actual blood. And yeah, that's the way you save money. I guess if 4 of you use it, you only have to pay 1/4 the cost. Who knew that would work? But apparently it does. And then they're just unbelievable. And so Fiji, a small island, and Lesotho, small country, the HIV is just devastating the population. And a lot of it comes through drug use. So don't ever tell me that drugs are a victimless crime and everybody has the right to just do whatever they want. No, they don't, because every time you do one of those drugs, you destroy yourself, your family, your community, and the whole world around you. Okay, that's my soapbox. I'm done. I'm done. Just so upsetting to me. All right. Speaking of something upsetting. Okay, so this woman, her name is, I'm not sure what her name is, Hengyi Huang. She assaulted another woman with a chemical, threw acid in her face, essentially. And I'll tell you what upsets me about the case, besides the fact that she threw acid in somebody's face. Let me find it. Hold on a second. Where is it? I really shouldn't put so many things here because I obviously can't find anything today. No, I can't find it. Anyway, but basically it's this. She stalked some woman and they can't figure out why, because the woman she didn't even know the woman. And she threw the stuff in her face and obviously blinded her, disfigured her. She had many problems. They gave her bail. Bail. For a person who would throw acid in a stranger's face, you give bail. What keeps them from just doing it again? I mean, obviously they're either very psychopathic or very psychotic. Either way, how can you let them back out in society at all? Gave her bail. That just blew me away. That was just a strange thing. I was like, what the heck? I wanted to talk about, where'd she go? Oh, there. No, where'd she go? Seriously, I've lost everything here. Who is this? I got to find out what this is. Oh, here's another one. A woman is freed from jail. Oh, no, sorry. The woman isn't freed. She was murdered. The guy who murdered her was freed because he won an appeal over improperly collected phone data. The phone data proved he was all of the locations where she ended up dead. But because it was improperly collected, again, technicality. I'm not saying technicality shouldn't be dealt with. But now he's out. He's out and about. Oh, I know you all want to talk about that. Okay. This is one. So no, I wasn't going to do this one, but just okay, let me get to I'll get to the drowning things in a minute, all the drowning people in Texas. Last week, 2 Florida parents kicked their 16-year-old son out of the car and left him on the side of Interstate 75 after he said he didn't want to go with them on a trip, either to Guam or Idaho. He was left with a bag of automatic pistols and some cash. It's like, what? They basically told me, okay, you don't want to go? Take care of yourself. Here's a couple guns and some money. Get out. It's terrible. But who does that? Who does that? Well, I'm pretty sure they're criminals. I mean, obviously. But, I mean, I have this running joke with my granddaughter that if she and her friends keep acting up and we're going to leave them in a cornfield, because a lot of times when we're driving like different places, there's these cornfields in our area, and I'm like, keep it up. I'm going to leave you in the cornfield. But I have not yet left them in a cornfield, especially not with a bag of guns and money. Make your way in the world, son. Probably illegally. Oh my God. Parents of the year. A strange story. Just a strange story. I shouldn't laugh, but it made me laugh anyway. Anyway, this was what I was trying to get to when I got distracted. All right. So we have here, there's more bodies being pulled out of the water. And let's see. It's in Texas. So it says here, there's another picture. This is out of the bayou. This is the White Oak Bayou. So they're pulling some bodies out of there, and they're out of this Lady Lake in Austin. Anyway, I talked about this before because a lot of people think it's a smiley face killers. The smiley face killers being a completely made up bullcrap stuff, where this band of serial killers go to college towns and find strapping young men coming out of bars, and they drown them, but there's never any damage to the young man's body. So they're like, and they just go all over the place. It started in Minnesota, then it went to Wisconsin. Now it's down in Texas. But anyway, it's ridiculous. So, but the question is, on the other hand, what's going on? All right, so the story is, a second. They've now got a petition because, that's what they do. Anyway, so medical examiner's chilling update as potential serial killer fears grow after bodies are pulled from the same lake in the space of 3 years. All right. People in Texas are worried that there's a serial killer running rife now that the total body count has been revealed of those who have died in lakes across the region. Not just that lake, lakes across the region. Suspicions have come after continuous reports of bodies in Texas being pulled from the bayous in Houston and other areas. One of the largest cases came when a person was reported as missing on Sunday, June 1st, and was later found by a paddleboarder in Lady Bird Lake on June 3rd. At the time, it was believed that he was the 19th person to be found dead in the water in 3 years. People began to suspect there was a person behind it all. Now they're calling him not the smiley face killer, they got a new one, the Rainey Street Ripper. All right. The name came about due to Lady Bird Lake being so close to Rainey Street, a nightclub hub with popular bars in downtown Austin. A petition of more than 5,000 signatures last July begged police to consider deaths are part of a wider issue. Now, mind you, I'll give you a point there that there's truth to some of this. Police never want to admit there's a serial killer when there clearly is a serial killer. A woman found dead in the bushes, raped and murdered. A month later, another woman's found in a different bush, raped and murdered in 10-mile area. And 6 months later, another one's found, raped and murdered in the bushes. Is that a serial killer or 3 bad boyfriends staging a serial crime? Chances are it's a serial killer. Now, whether it's one serial killer or 2 serial killers or whatever, we have a lot of serial killers operating in areas. However, so what happens is the police don't want to admit that there's a serial killer, because once they admit that, the media goes ballistic, the citizens go ballistic, and the pressure is so severe that they would rather play it down while they're investigating. And sometimes that's a problem, that they're not connecting the dots between different crimes that are serial homicides. So that can be a problem. And I still remember the one case, I think it was in Canada, actually, sure. But a bunch of bodies were found under a tree, but they were all deposited there at different times. And you're like, so what you're saying is 4 different bad boyfriends found the same tree to leave bodies under? I mean, come on now. So it was clearly a serial killer. It was one of the stupidest things. And the families are going, it's a serial killer. Police are going, no, it's not. And it's like, oh, come on now. Clearly, this is one case. You shouldn't deny there's a serial killer. But what about people found drowned in bodies of water? Is this a serial killer? The problem we're having with these, and this is let's go over a little further in the article. The speculation has begun again. The police said they've been adamant that there's no serial killer looking around the city. Well, there may well be a serial killer in the city, but it doesn't mean he killed the people that are in the lake or that he killed all the people in the lake. Well, the speculation has begun again now that officials have confirmed that the number of bodies found in Houston's bayous is more than was previously believed. 5 people were pulled from the water within the last week, and while police initially estimated 14 people had died in different bodies of water in the town this year, is more than that according to local experts. The real figure is 22. Despite this, the Houston Police Department says there's no evidence of a serial killer. So anyway, now everybody's getting, saying the serial killers. All right. As for the 22 people, only 6 have had their official cause of death determined, while the rest are pending or listed as undetermined. Okay. Here's the thing. Generally speaking, if a person goes missing and their body is found relatively quickly and there's no sign of any kind of foul play, no bruising to the body, no broken fingers, no evidence that they were forced under the water to somebody was drowning them, chances are then that probably is not a homicide. That is usually an accidental death because of drugs or alcohol. 2 things, drugs and alcohol, or drugs and alcohol. Mostly males, by the way, because they get drunker. Well, they don't get drunker, but they do some stupid stuff like, go pee in the water. Women don't go pee in the water. So men go down, I'm going to pee in the water, man. Or I'm going to go wade through the water. I'm going to take a swim. They're guys, and they drown. So for the most part, probably, from what I'm seeing here, is they haven't got any evidence that these people were shot, stabbed, strangled, or beaten before they went into the water. So why did they go into the water? Now, the smiley face theory is that somehow they miraculously force men into the water without any fight. And so they looked drowned, but they were really murdered. We also have one of the things I don't know, and I can't find here, and we investigate that a little more. Who are these people that are drowned? I do know some were young men who were drinking excessively in the area, and there wasn't. Take a look at this picture, for example. Oh, I got pee. That's you can slide right down that sucker. Then there's the issue of homeless people. Now, somebody didn't like this comment that one police officer made, or somebody made, that, well, sometimes when a homeless person dies, the other homeless people just shove them into the water. And they're like, wow, come on now. I'm not saying that's not true myself, though. It's like, I know what to do with Bob. He OD'd. Oh, let's just put him in the water. That way, the police don't come and ask questions. Like, who gave him the drugs? Let's just shove them in the water. So that's not really an unreasonable thing to say. I don't know who the people are that were missing. I would like to know how many were known to go missing right away. In other words, you were out with Bob having a great night, and Bob vanished. Remember the guy in Tennessee? What's his name in Tennessee? Somebody give me a name here. I did do a thing on him. They thought there was a whole big deal about all the internet again, all the YouTube channels. Oh my God, he was murdered. And there was no evidence he was ever murdered. He was seen, he was drinking heavily at a club. He walked out. You could see him walking down the street, and then he vanished and drowned. That was, somebody give me a name. Somebody give me a name. Come on, that was a huge case. Thank you. we're at least trained, yeah. And I always said from the beginning, I think it was an accidental death from drowning. And eventually that's what they ruled it, but there's people out there still who think it was murder. Now, mind you, can somebody get in a confrontation? Somebody does this to a very drunk or very drugged up person and give them a little shove and they tumble into the water and drown, sure. Can you probably prove it was a murder then? Probably not. Why were they shoved into the water? Was it an argument? Was it a deranged homeless person who was, talking crazy stuff, and the guy came up and he says, "Give me $1," and I'm going to give you $1, and he pushed him. Could that be true? Sure. There's a bunch of reasons why people can end up in the water, and so first of all, I want to know how many of them, like Riley Strain, people noticed he was missing right away. He was a college student. Something is wrong. He's gone missing. I want to know how many of those were those kind of people, and how many of those were people, they found the bodies and they didn't know who it was, and the person went missing 6 months ago and nobody cared, which would probably mean they were homeless of some sort, some issues that pretty much nobody knew where they were. So could some of these be homicides? Well, yeah. But the question is, if you don't have proof it's a homicide, you don't have proof it's a homicide. And for the most part, it's probably not a homicide. I mean, I say all those people, could a couple of them be a homicide? Sure. But there's no evidence at this point. So, yeah. Riley Strain, it was Tennessee. He went into the river in Tennessee. And I tell the story over and over again because I think people need to hear it. So a girl that my kids knew, she wasn't a close friend or anything, but they knew her from different friends in a kind of the area, the place they were living. And she went to celebrate, I think it was her 30th birthday in Fells Point in Baltimore. She drank with her friends, and then she said she was going to walk back to her car, which she went on her own, and she never arrived at her car. And her purse was found near the water, and she was found in the water, drowned. And everybody thought she was murdered. And I'm looking at this going, maybe somebody attacked her, tried to rob her, pushed her in. I thought that was a good possibility. And all of a sudden it got real quiet. The family is like, "Well, we want to know what happened." And then it got real quiet. And the reason it got real quiet is because they had a video. They showed actual video of her tottering near the water, and she fell in. And there's a video of it. So that's how easy it happens. It's horrible. She was a nice young woman. I mean, a nice young woman. And she drank too much and got too close to the water. And it was that quick and that simple. But if that video hadn't been there, I'm going to say her parents would still be saying she was murdered. And the community would be still outraged. Unfortunately, we don't have enough cameras to prove why people fell into the water. So it's a real shame. But that's, again, why I'm not fond of excessive drinking and drugging. I just think that the way it destroys people is just terrible. All right, I'm going to just do one more. Oh, I do want to do Karen Reed. I almost forgot about Karen. Where's Karen? Where's Karen Reed? Has she gone missing on me? Where is she? Who is that? No, Karen Reed. Okay, Karen Reed went missing. I had a picture of Karen Reed. I swear to God. Hold on. No, I can't find my picture. Never mind, I can't find the picture of Karen Reed. But here's the thing. Karen Reed, Karen Reed of the Massachusetts fame, who, in my opinion, should have been found guilty of running her boyfriend over. But she was found not guilty in the second trial. And now there's going to be, guess what? A movie made. Oh, yes, of course there is, I don't know if she's getting paid for being, having her story told, but I wouldn't be surprised because they usually do that. Let me see this story here. Where are you? Where are you? I'm having problems today. This is not one of my better days as far as losing everything, and say it's been rough coming back. So I'm a little messed up here. So where did she go? Where are you, Karen? Oh yeah, who will play Karen Reed in the new movie? Actress Elizabeth Banks is going to play Karen Reed. That's all we did. I do a movie. That's just lovely. So, but the other thing I want to talk about, which is this. The article was, why did Karen Reed attract so many fans? Okay, so if you followed the Karen Reed case, you know it was all over the internet. There was a turtle boy, a deranged character who had his channel and all that. They were all, what do they call them? I forgot what they called them now. They all followed him and they were like, he's the best. And he's a psycho. Anyway, he's been charged with a few things he should be charged with. Anyway, there were these massive amount of people that, I understand if you think Karen Reed is not guilty, but there are massive amount of people dressing up in these pink shirts and cheering, and they were like fans. They were such fans for Karen Reed. And she wasn't even a likable human being. I'm telling you, I watched the documentary. She's like a not likable person. And the question is, why are these people so into Karen Reed? And why, it says here, what is it about this case that captivated so many? I don't think it was just the fact that it was like, oh, this poor woman's being railroaded by that's big conspiracy theory with the police and the government and all this kind of crap. But it does say here, homicide cases involving women defendants often capture the public's attention because of how rare they are and how they collide with gender biases and norms. Yes, people have trouble understanding that women can be nasty creatures. The fact that the victim was a police officer, the botched police investigation. Okay, it wasn't a botched police investigation. It just wasn't the best in the middle of a storm. The possibility of law enforcement officers as alternative suspects. Yes, let's just say all these police officers colluded with all these other people to fabricate evidence and just crazy stuff, in my opinion. And then the small town dynamics and the feuds going on, all that stuff. Yes, but here's what I really think. And I realize this from a channel that I'm not going to give the name of the channel, but I have my new channel, which is not exactly getting great stuff in the algorithm. I do this one, Dear Profiler Pat, and it's like a Dear Abby, it's an agony aunt thing, question, why do I keep getting dumped? So anyway, I enjoy doing it. A lot of people send me questions. They say, Pat, what do you think? And people seem to really like the way I answer questions because I try to get into more details. And normally people do like these like Dear Abby and stuff. It's like a small paragraph. I try to go a little further and expand it to more people and more situations because that's the way I am. And so I know people really like the channel, but it's not doing well. But there's another channel that's doing really well. And she's getting like 200,000 views on one video. And I'm like, what the heck? Now, maybe the algorithm just gave her, sometimes the algorithm's weird. But I'm watching it. And she's got like 1,000 comments. And I'm like, what in the world? And I'm thinking, is she that good? Because, maybe she is that good. So so I watched her stuff, a few of them. And I couldn't stand her. I really couldn't. Now, why? She was sitting in her, so nothing fancy. She's like sitting in her kitchen, sitting in her living room. She looks depressed most of the time. She's 60. She looks about 70. And she's like, I live alone, except with my dog. I think the only reason I'm living is for my dog. She's like, it's like how being a senior is like depressing. How you're not going to have enough money. People will be mean to you. People will forget you. It was the most depressing channel. And she never gives any decent advice because she's like sad Sally. You know what I mean? But she got massive amounts of comments. Oh gosh, it's me too. I'm the same thing. I don't care about my life except for my cat. Oh yeah, it's true. I mean, people aren't fair to sin. It goes on and on. People just, misery loves company. And I'm like, she's making a fortune. I don't know if this is, she's making enough money now. She can move out of that house and she could get a great life, because she's making so much money. I don't know if she's purposely doing it and she's clever. She's like, I know how to make money. I'm going to be the sad sack and people will all relate to me. And then they'll feel good about themselves because they're sad sacks too. And then we can all say, we understand what you're going through. Maybe she's smart. I don't know. I don't know if she's doing it on purpose, and I honestly don't know. But I look at Karen Reed and I say, what is it that so many people, not some of the conspiracy stuff, why are they relating to Karen Reed? She's an unlikable human being. And what is it that they want her to be their anti-hero, essentially? And I honestly think it's because, hey, if my life is kind of messed up, her life's kind of messed up. Hey, I can relate to that. I'm gonna cheer her. I'm gonna cheer her on, because she's the underdog. I'm an underdog. So I almost think that's why she's got such a huge amount of people following her and wanting to, like, thinking she's like, and again, there's some of you out there who truly have looked at the information, evidence, and truly believe she's innocent. I'm not saying that's you. I'm just saying I think that's why a good 80 to 90% of the people following are doing so, because it makes them feel better. And sometimes that's what we want. We don't want people who are successful talking. You look at somebody who's real successful, you go, well, that's not me. That sucks. Some people are like, oh, I have these friends and they really annoy me because they just said, oh, I just got this new house. And, we got this new house on the beach and it cost only $1.5 million. And you're like, nice for you. So you maybe want to hang out with your friend down the street who says, man, I can barely pay the rent this month. It's more comforting, shall we say. So I think it's kind of a human condition that we do like level of comfort, that we're okay, and that other people are struggling like us, and other people in a worse situation than us. And sometimes we like to root for the underdog because the underdog is easier. It's somebody to root for. It makes you feel important that you can fight for the underdog. So I just think it's interesting because she's not likable. I mean, I find that the most amazing thing about her. I mean, I've seen some underdogs who are pretty likable. She's not one of them, in my opinion. I mean, so I find it kind of fascinating. So trauma bonding. Yeah, I think there is a trauma bonding thing there. And sometimes I think what trauma bonding does is allow us to not find a way out. In other words, sometimes it's a lot of work to fight the battle. It's easier to just, for example, the whole issue on love your body no matter what shape you're in. Don't fat shame people. Remember the whole thing until the drugs came along, Ozempic, and suddenly all the people that said you should appreciate your fat body suddenly are going, look at me, I'm so skinny. It's like, because they always wanted to be skinny. They always knew being overweight was not attractive, and they always knew that it wasn't healthy. So what happens is when you're overweight, which I am right now, I mean, yeah, it's just comforting for me not to be around cute little models. I could be around somebody else who's like struggling too. But then maybe we're both struggling, but neither one of us really want to go on the diet tomorrow. So, just because I just stopped it, picked up some pizza, and I want somebody to go, yeah, me too. I know, we do like people that are sort of in the same situation as us, because it makes us think, oh, thank God, I don't have to fight this today. I got somebody who understands. We're all in the same boat. And, but you get around people who are like super health freaks and thin people, and they're annoying as crap. So I think there is something to that. So I think, unfortunately, there's many people that exploit that because they realize that that's where the attention is. That's where the money is. That's where the defense attorney can get a huge crowd to go with pitchforks and tear up the internet and mess with juries. So just kind of interesting. That's interesting. Now, why do you think that is? That's interesting, Doug's discussion. Why do you think they were cheering to convict Donna Adelson? Why do you think? I'm curious what your answer on that would be. That's a cute little face. um, I am not alone. That's true. We are not alone. Um, she really is guilty in the awful things she said. Well, I would say Karen Reed was really guilty, and she said some awful things about the man she ran over with a car. That's my opinion. The length she would tell Wendy to go get their way. I haven't looked at the case in a long time. I know people have told me to do the case, and I don't know. I somehow got sidetracked off of it, and because she's an evil person. Well, that might be, but there are certain people that I guess they they're too far to the evil side, or they're too far to the who am I thinking of? The Murdochs. Am I thinking, is that their name? The ones that now movies coming out about them too. The whole family down in wherever they're down in. So a lot of it, they were super, super wealthy. So super wealthy people don't get as much love because people can't relate to super wealthy people when they're not super wealthy. So that's one reason, I think. She thought she could outsmart everybody on her high horse. So, there's a point where people lose that kind of, she's not the underdog anymore. She's, and then you can get the pitchforks out perhaps quite reasonably. You said, I paid no attention to the Karen Reed case. I was pretty convinced of her guilt, not interested in the mania surrounding the case. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. It just absolutely crazy. And I think to this day, a good portion of people believe that she was railroaded, that somehow the gentleman in the house, which was no proof of, and she never, and he got immediately attacked by a dog and some people, and then tossed on the front lawn of and then everybody planted evidence. It's just, it's so far-fetched. It just drives me crazy. But I don't know. I don't know what it was about her. She wasn't wealthy. She is now. Believe me, she's going to be wealthy. Yeah. Oh, this is interesting. Dog discussion. She refused to let the grandchildren see their other grandparents, and they were forced to pass a law, the marker law, so grandparents could see their grandkids. Interesting. It's funny. I'm going to have to relook at that. She wouldn't let the grandchildren see their other grandparents. Did she have custody of them? I don't know. I really can't remember the case. So I'm gonna have to look back at it. But there's these different things that attract people and just don't attract people, and why they pick a side to be on. But I think it is interesting sometimes where I've seen people go crazy for certain guilty people, people who are in prison. Luke Mitchell is a cause célèbre in the UK. Tons of people out there saying, "Oh my God, poor Luke." And I think it's a lot of people who can relate to. Same thing with West Memphis 3. I think people related to the fact that they were young, that they wore certain clothing, listened to certain music, and oh my God, they're being treated as, because they were outcasts. They were these murders. These 3 kids were pasted on them, and I think they related to the concept of a community which doesn't like certain kinds of teenagers. And I'm still waiting, by the way, that MVAC thing. What happened to MVAC? They sent that they're not going to come up with anything. I'll be pretty sure that the West Memphis the MVAC, they have the right to get the MVAC now. The evidence is supposedly sent over. But what about the MVAC? So in August, they allowed new DNA testing with the MVAC, September 5th, it says it could be solved. Yeah, okay. But now it's October. We haven't heard a thing, so I don't know. When I hear something, I'll talk about that one for sure. Anyway, I'm going to go make myself a little dinner, and then I'll get dressed for bed, and then I'll go to the bathroom next door. And in the middle of the night, it's not going to be fun. But I have to say, my son-in-law, and my daughter's father-in-law, and they put a tremendous amount of effort trying to fix this. So they're coming with the machinery tomorrow. So yeah, much fun. Just delightful, But this is working well now. So at least that, So I got my new iPhone, and that's functioning. So yeah, she said I could sleep over next to the bathroom. I could do that from the mood, but I don't know from the mood. So what? Now imagine if your daughter died, God forbid, and her dad wouldn't let you ever see the granddaughter. I wasn't allowed to call Reggie. Yeah, there's a whole issue. Oh, thank you, Lisa. Appreciate that. No, Mac didn't give a crap as long as he got his food. There is a weird issue about grandparents, and I can't remember if I did a Dear Profiler Pat on that already. I may have. I've done enough of them now. I can't remember what I've done. So, but the grandparents' right to see the children is an interesting concept. In the fact that they're not their children, they raise their children, and then if their children don't want their parents in their children's lives, I kind of think that's their right. But it gets really confusing, especially if the grandparents have had custody and have raised the children themselves, and then mommy comes back into the picture or dad comes back into the picture, and then it can get into a big, huge mess. But I'm going to have to look up what the situation was there with her, which I'm pretty sure she was a pretty crappy person. So that may be a reasonable thought that she was pretty evil. But anyway, I can't quite remember the whole story now because I've been elsewhere in my stuff that I've been doing. Anyway, so I will see. Oh, by the way, I'm waiting for a word. I may have to do the shows on Saturday for 5 weeks. So this whole thing's tossed around. So be aware that maybe Saturday at 3:00 and not Sunday at 3:00. We shall find out. So life sometimes gets a little crazy. Anyway, see you later, guys. Hope to see you on this weekend's case. Bye-bye.